What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Whales and Locks. In today's video, we're going to be trying a second chance here at the NCAA tournament. First time around, I made a video about a week and a half ago prior to the tournament starting, actually more like a week ago at this point only, and I put out my tournament picks. My final four was Gonzaga, Texas, Ohio State, and Oklahoma State. Sadly to say, three of those teams are now out of the tournament. Oral Roberts handing Ohio State a loss, Texas to Abilene Christian. That was absolutely ridiculous. The fact that Texas only scored 52 points, that still blows my mind. And then Oklahoma State losing to Oregon State. This has been just an absolutely chaotic NCAA tournament. So I feel like many brackets are probably screwed up. Mine was really screwed up, unfortunately. So we're going to take another crack at it here with the Tournament Challenge Second Chance opportunity. So let's get right down to it. We're going to start in the top left of the bracket. This bracket we already know is pretty crazy, so maybe we'll see some of that going on through here, but let's get it started with Gonzaga versus Creighton. I really don't think this game will be all that close. I think the Zags definitely take this one pretty easily. I'm not a big Creighton guy at all. This next game, USC and Oregon, is an absolutely awesome game between two great Pac-12 teams. That's another thing to mention, how unbelievable the Pac-12 has been, going 9-1 this NCAA tournament, looking like the best team best conference in college basketball. This is a tough one, but I ultimately do think Oregon will pull this one out. I just think that their offense is a little bit better. They've got better wings who can drive the ball and shoot, and I think Eugene Omoruyi will be able to stop Evan Mobley a little bit better than Kansas was able to, so I will take the Ducks. Let's go down to the East now with Michigan and Florida State. Another really interesting matchup. Ultimately, I think Michigan's offense, after watching them against LSU, they did look really solid without Isaiah Livers. I'm not a big Brandon Johns guy, but Sean D. Brown and Eli Brooks really stepped up for them. I have a lot of confidence in their role players going into this game against Florida State. So ultimately, I will take the Wolverines here to get to the Elite Eight. So now we've got number 11 seeded UCLA, number 2 Alabama. I like this UCLA team, but when we've seen who they have played thus far in the NCAA tournament, they beat Michigan State in a really tight one where they were down double digits. They went on to beat a bad BYU 6 seed, and then a really, really bad number 14 seeded Abilene Christian, and Alabama's been running through the field here. I really like Alabama's offense. I think they ultimately pull this one out. I will take the Roll Tide. So now we have Baylor and Villanova. This matchup is a really good matchup in terms of coaching. We've got Scott Drew versus Jay Wright. However, I think the difference here is just the one thing I would like to point out before I make this pick is in terms of the three overrated teams that I did pick going into this tournament, in Iowa, Virginia, and Baylor. I got two of them right, but I will admit when I am wrong here, and I pretty much was pretty wrong here on Baylor. Baylor looked unbelievable in their first matchup, and then when they took on Wisconsin, they made Wisconsin look really bad. This team can really score. I do think they go in droughts sometimes, but I don't think that'll happen against a Villanova team that is still without Colin Gillespie. So I will take the Bears here. Arkansas versus the best story of the NCAA tournament by far, Oral Roberts, the 15 seed. When we look at this matchup, number 3 Arkansas, an elite offense, great guards, Justin Smith in the post, but then Oral Roberts, I mean, Max Abmas, or whatever his last name is, I think it's something, I can't believe I'm blanking on his name, but the 15 seed here, I mean, they've got a duo that's unmatched, been scoring at a ridiculous pace, beating Florida and Ohio State. I do think Arkansas here probably ends Oral Roberts' Cinderella story. I just think with Arkansas being given 4 days here to ultimately come up with a plan to take on Oral Roberts, I think they will do a better job. Florida definitely was not expecting them coming into their second round matchup, probably had no preparation for them. So I will take Arkansas as they'll have more time here to recuperate and ultimately put up a good game plan. So now we have Loyola, Chicago, and Oregon State. Oregon State's one of those stories that I was completely wrong on. I thought Oregon State was going to get waxed by Tennessee in the first round. Loyola, Chicago, we always see them come through, it seems, in the NCAA tournament. I don't see what will stop them at this point. Cameron Crutwood has been playing unbelievably. I will take Loyola, Chicago. We've got number 11 seed Syracuse and number 2 seed Houston. When we look at Syracuse here, basically this Syracuse team is kind of what I was thinking Oklahoma State would do in the NCAA tournament, which is run through it with their best player. And ultimately, number 11 seeded Syracuse, they have the best player in the NCAA tournament. Buddy Boeheim is an absolute bucket. He said it on the court. I'm saying it. He's a dog. I'm shocked Syracuse is +6 in this matchup against Houston. I think Syracuse wins this game. I mean, they have the best player on the floor. I don't see how they lose this game. Their offense is just far better. I will take the Cuse. So now we have an interesting Elite Eight here with 3 1 seeds. Some pretty low-seeded teams in Oregon, Loyola, and Syracuse. This has, again, just been one of the most chaotic tournaments we've seen. So let's go right down to it. Gonzaga, Oregon. I was very tempted here. I mean, I have Gonzaga winning the whole thing in my first bracket, but who cares about that at this point? I'm very tempted to take Oregon here. I've thought about it long and hard, but ultimately this Gonzaga team, they're on a mission. I don't think Oregon will stop them. I do think Oregon has a very good chance here to keep this game close, but ultimately I think Gonzaga wins this by about 5 or 6, so I will take the Zags here to get to the Final Four. Michigan and Alabama, another really interesting game. This game will probably be pretty similar to the Michigan-LSU game. 2 offenses going at it, with Alabama having a slightly better, we'll say it, a much better defense than LSU. So maybe this game isn't in the 80s necessarily, in high 70s, maybe in the mid 70s, but a back and forth game. Alabama's offense is elite, but I just think Michigan and Juwan Howard here, I was really impressed with what I saw against LSU. I think Michigan actually pulls this one out. I wouldn't be surprised if going into this game if Alabama was favored, but I will ride with Michigan here to get to the Final Four. So now we have Baylor and Arkansas, again pointing out the fact that I really messed up the Baylor losing in the second round pick. Again, when I did take that, I thought North Carolina would take them down. I gave my reasons in the overhyped video, if you want to check that out if you haven't seen it. Regardless, Baylor, Arkansas, Baylor's just, we got to take Baylor here. I know this is pretty much chalk, but I feel like once you hit the Sweet 16, it really comes down to what can coaches do. It doesn't necessarily come down to players just getting lucky. The lucky concept kind of goes away once you get to the Sweet 16. It's all about just who's the better team at that point. So I'll take Baylor. So now we have a really, I don't think anyone went into this expecting Loyola, Chicago, and Syracuse. 2 vastly different teams. Loyola Chicago, a much more defensive team, slowing the pace down. Syracuse wants to run and gun offensively. The first round kind of scared me. I thought we were going to see a lot of defensive teams out of the first round once some of these bad teams that Oregon State, for example, I mean, just teams that I really didn't like offensively. But once we got to the Sweet 16, I think we saw a lot of good offensive teams winning out. Teams like Alabama, teams like Syracuse, even Michigan, I mean, Oregon, USC, these are Arkansas, these are good offensive teams. It's good to see this, and I think that's ultimately what wins out here. I will take the Cuse. I think it's Buddy Boeheim's season. The kid is unconscious lately. So we have now Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, Syracuse. Let's start with Gonzaga, Michigan. So we've got a situation here where Michigan, it's tough without Livers because Michigan's really forming a good team around these other players besides Livers, and it's great to see. But again, Gonzaga they're just better. I mean, I can't bet against the Zags at this point. They're the one team in this tournament that I struggle to ever bet against or take against. For example, if Syracuse, when we have this, if Michigan was playing Baylor, for example, I think I would probably lean Michigan because I do think Michigan right now among the teams left is the second best team remaining. But because they're playing, I think, the best team in Gonzaga, I will take the Zags. So now we have number 1 seeded Baylor and number 11 seeded Syracuse. Another tough one here. Syracuse getting to the Final Four. This is just going to be a shocker to all of you. I'm going to ride the Cuse again. I mean, here's why. Let me break it down really quick. I think Syracuse, they've got Jim Boeheim. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I think he's the better coach. I think they have the best player. Ultimately, the Boeheims are going to get it done for Syracuse here. I think it's strictly the fact that sometimes it's just about who has the best player. And when it comes down to the end of a tight game, I just think Buddy Boeheim coming off a screen, I envision a game where Buddy Boeheim is coming off a screen, maybe a double screen, maybe a ball screen, and he just throws it up there. And he's been so hot lately that I think it's just going to go in for him. So I'm going to take Syracuse here to beat Baylor. So now we have a Gonzaga-Syracuse final. I can't bet against the Zags. I did it in my first video. I'm taking the Zags. I'm sorry to any of you who really just can't stand the fact that the Zags are just this good. They are. They're always favored by double digits. They always win by double digits. So I think the final score will be 81-78. I think it'll be a close one. I think the Cuse are a really nice team. When you watch them, they may not have the best defense, but offensively, I mean, these guys can just get it going. So that is my picks here for the Tournament Challenge Sweet 16. Please leave your thoughts in the comments Roast me on my Baylor pick. Roast me on whatever you want. Let's get into a conversation. I'd love to talk. But yeah, Gonzaga-Syracuse is the final. So if you did enjoy this content, and would like to see more things like this in the future, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.